Hey guys, welcome back. Now, after the long-awaited approval of the Bitcoin ETFs, unfortunately it did turn out to be a sell the news event. After Bitcoin initially raced up close to the $50,000 mark, it quickly ran out of steam, not helped by the latest CPI, and has since plummeted back down. And so the big question is, what happens next? Will Bitcoin and the altcoins continue to struggle from here with weeks of sideways action, or even worse, could there be another leg down? And so in this video, we'll be looking at, after a big drop, when in doubt, what do we do? And I'll be sharing my best mindset techniques. Then we'll look at the key technical analysis support line which Bitcoin needs to hold, or else another leg down may be imminent. And then we'll finish with why we're entering into a new investment world, regaining perspective in a post-ETF environment. Okay, so first up, it's never nice to see large drops to our portfolios. Bitcoin's had a nice 15% haircut, which means many of the altcoins got hit even harder. So in times of elevated fear, uncertainty, and doubt, here is what to do. And so when we are in the middle of a big drop and correction, this is something that I will also be personally referring back to. And I posted this on YouTube, and I've also pinned it to the top of my Twitter account, or X. So throughout this year, this is something that is just going to loop round and round and round again, which is why I've pinned it to the top, as we'll keep referring back to it. The 2024 playbook. Quite simply, expect massive runs, expect FOMO, expect to feel elated, then expect things to get overbought, then expect some big corrections, expect to feel fear, uncertainty and doubt, especially if you're in the altcoins. Expect loads of mass noise and a flurry of opinions all over social media, and then repeat. So it turns out that this Bitcoin ETF, basically the massive run-up, happened a couple of months before, which we'll take a look at in a second. And there was a lot of FOMO. I felt it myself, and actually in the last 3 months I took my spare cash position and I went all in. So I was one of these people, for better or worse. I definitely was feeling elated as the latest altcoin purchases went up either 100 or 150% in just the past couple of months. And then what happened at the time of the ETF launch? Things were overbought. And so it turned out to be a buy the rumor and sell the news event. And where are we now? We've just had a big correction. You probably felt either some fear, some uncertainty, or doubt in the last couple of weeks, especially if you're in altcoins, as they got hit much harder. And this is where we're at right now. We're in this drop correction stage, and if you go onto social media, everyone's got an opinion. But I think it's only a matter of time until once we've flushed out and people feel comfortable enough, we'll go right back to the next big run as people anticipate the Bitcoin halving event. So the number one thing to do in times of uncertainty when there is a big correction is this. You have to regain perspective. And this is the major context, getting the true perspective. So how do we do this? Well, you're probably looking at some kind of short-term chart. So this is Bitcoin, and you can be looking at it on a daily chart or a weekly chart. And if you look at it on a short-term basis and you've seen, oh dear, it's dropped almost 9%. And this is what's causing the feelings of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But we have to remember that crypto is a very volatile asset class. So it really doesn't help to look at it on a short-term basis because it doesn't give you the true picture. So simply flip this to either a 3-month or 6-month to regain perspective. And looking at the chart this way, and this is the 6-month chart, you can actually see the true picture. And you'll see that even this big drop is not really that big a deal. Now, people will compare it to the absolute high which it hit, and this only happened in 1 day. And in fact, only in 1 hour of the last 6 months. So that's not a fair comparison. In fact, most of the time in the past month, it's been around this range, which is about 43,000, which is pretty much where it's at right now. And this is the true perspective. And that's just comparing it to the last month. And if you see where Bitcoin's been in just the last 6 months, the low point was 25,000. So we've gone from 25 to almost 43. So this is the true perspective and puts what's just happened into the proper place. Another great chart. And this one is from Ben into the Cryptoverse, and it's showing Bitcoin's days since the last 10% decline. So what are we looking at? So this is Bitcoin's price, and all these dots are when Bitcoin has had over a 10% decline. So is this something that has happened before? Well, only literally 100 times. This is something that has happened again and 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 again, and it constantly happens over the years, these 10% drops. And in fact, you'll see these big sort of spikes here, and these spikes are how many days it's been since the last 10% drop. So the bigger anomaly here, guys, is not that we've had this 10-15% drop. It's the fact that it's taken so long since the last one, which is why you get this large spike. The bigger anomaly is that it's taken so long since the last 10% drop, not that there's been a 10% drop. The drop is something that has literally happened hundreds of times and will happen again and again and again. Another great way to regain the true perspective. And this is another chart that frequently gets shared in times of drops, and it is a really, really good chart. So it basically shows the massive run up, the last blow off part of the cycle, and this was the 2017 big bull run. So this is as good as it gets in crypto. Once you get to the final stage where literally in the last year and a half, it goes absolutely parabolic. But even in the very, very best time that you'll ever get in crypto, you get these massive sell-offs again and again and again and again. And these were pretty big, brutal sell-offs, not a 15%, 40%, 40%, 30%, 40%. And this is when crypto is at its absolute best. So again, this is why I say expect massive runs and expect things to get overbought and expect the big drops. Okay, so now moving on to just some short-term technical analysis, and I called this hold the line. As in the short term, this is the line that Bitcoin keeps repeatedly hitting since the beginning of December. It was hit here, hit here, hit here, hit here. This was the big run ETF launch, which brought us to about 49,000. The big dump, which briefly took us below. It regained, retested, and this is the line that needs to hold. Currently it's around 42,000. Now if it can hold this line, then it's probably going to start inching back up from here, and if it doesn't, if we do actually break below, then the next line where there's a lot of resistance is going to be about here. And this could take us down to about 38,000. So if this doesn't hold, I think this is probably as big of a correction that we'll get this time around. And only time will tell to see what happens over the next couple of days. So this next week really is a critical week to see where things are going to go. And then finally, we talk about the new world, and the new world being the post-ETF launches. And now we have these mega traditional financial services companies, BlackRock being the largest. And if you go to the BlackRock website, you'll now see only the largest asset manager shilling Bitcoin on their homepage. And this is incredible to see. And it's not just BlackRock, there's several companies now that are highlighting their new Bitcoin ETF. We have commercials left, right, and center as they're all competing against each other in the Cointucky Derby. And just as an FYI, in the last few days, the volume has been over 10 billion. And a fun fact, in the first 3 days, the volume was over 10 billion. And again, here's the word of the day to give you a true perspective. In the US, there were 500 ETF launched last year, and they just had a combined volume of just 450 million. So these several Bitcoin ETFs have outperformed 500 ETFs that launched last year. So the Bitcoin ETFs have been a massive success. And to finish up on part of this new world, here's a quick clip from BlackRock's CEO as he shills the next big thing coming.
I believe it goes up if the world is more frightened, if people have fearful of geopolitical risk, they're fearful of their own risk. It's no different than what gold represented over thousands of years. It is a asset class that protects you.
Right. Longer term, do you now expect other cryptocurrency ETFs? Meaning, do you think that Gary, and we'll talk to him later, Gary
like Ethereum
will have to approve an Ethereum ETF? And is that a function of something the SEC has to do, or do you think that all these things have to go to court first?
I couldn't respond to that. I see value in having an Ethereum ETF. As I said, these are just stepping stones towards tokenization. And I really do believe this is where we're going to be going. We have the technology to tokenize today. If you want to think about this. If you had a tokenized security and you have a tokenized identity, you, Andrew, the moment you buy or sell an instrument, it is known. It's on a general ledger that is all created together. You want to talk about issues around money laundering and all that. This eliminates all corruption by having a tokenized system.
After the long-awaited approval of the Bitcoin ETFs, it turns out that the whole thing was just a big buy the rumor, sell the news event. And so does this mean after 15 years of gains, it's all over for Bitcoin and the entire crypto market? Well, unlikely. Well, as we saw, a 10% drop is something that has literally happened hundreds of times before, and the bigger anomaly was that it had taken so long since the last one, almost 4 months. Now, the pattern of big runs into greed, then big drops into fear, is something that's going to repeat again and again and again just this year alone. And the best thing to do in times of uncertainty is to regain perspective. Simply flip the chart from daily or weekly to 3-month or 6-month, and you'll instantly regain the true perspective and instantly feel better. And just remember, if you are playing the altcoin market and looking for these big outsized returns, then you have to accept the outsized drops as well. And then we finish with the new world being, we now have several mega traditional financial services companies all shilling Bitcoin on their homepages, bringing out commercials, and even the CEO of BlackRock himself shilling an Ethereum ETF. And alluding to that everything is going to be tokenized. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Now, as you see, this basically all means that we are just getting started. Now, if you do have any questions or comments that you must get answered, then simply use super thanks below. But just remember, to get rid of 100% of the comment spam and trading bots that plague YouTube comments, we are trying out the new SuperThanks Commenting system. So to get your question or comment read and replied to, or just to say thanks, then use SuperThanks below. And just to say, if you did enjoy anything in the video, then drop a like, and a big thank you to everyone who does, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.